you can hear that lovely lady. I'm ready to get going. You guys ready?
We're ready. What are we supposed to get ready for?
Nothing really. I'll drive this. I'll drive us to the finish line. No worries.
I like the way you told us that. There's nothing to get ready for.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just getting interviewed. So yeah, let's go ahead and get going. So thanks everybody for being here with us tonight. This is the fourth of the 5 law student discussion groups we are doing this spring. And tonight's focus is on immigration law. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jonathan Guest. I am the membership coordinator and database admin here at the KBA, as well as the law students staff liaison. Today, we have a couple of members from our community that work in immigration in the Knoxville area. First, we have Kate Tucker of Kramer Racing LLP. Kate got her law degree from the College of William and Mary and was licensed in 2002. We also have Charles Torres of Torres Law Firm PLLC. Charles got his law degree from the University of Memphis and was licensed in 1990. So before we get going, this is just an informal discussion. If anyone has any questions, would like to submit anything to the chat box or turn your camera on and jump right into the discussion, feel free. So let's get going, guys. So the first thing I like to do for these discussions is kind of just hand you put the ball in your court. And Kate, so we'll start with you. So just kind of give us a general rundown of kind of just where you were at, where your head was at in law school, kind of where you started your career, and then the path that led to where you're at now.
Okay. Well, I may not be exactly the poster child for the proper process to begin a law degree. I went to law school because there was nothing in particular that I wanted to do. And then my last year of law school, I actually decided I didn't want to be a lawyer. And so I didn't sign up for any interviews. I did finish the year. That was probably more of a threat of what my family would do. And then as soon as I graduated, I took off to South America for a year and worked in a bar. So then I ran out of money and I came home to live with my mother in Knoxville. She basically said, take the bar or get out. So I took the bar exam, and then very soon after that, I started clerking at Kramer Racing. And honestly, I've been loving practicing law ever since that time. So thankfully, things worked out despite all efforts I made to sabotage my legal career.
Yeah. I like those stories. We don't want it to make it seem like it's a rigid plan that anybody has to stick with. So, yeah, for sure. What about you, Charles?
Well, mine is a little bit similar. I never intended to be an attorney. I have a bachelor's degree in engineering technology with a major in architecture. And so after I graduated, I went to work for an architect firm, and it was pretty rough and not much pay. And I said, I better get me a better degree. And so I had a friend that went straight into law school from that same program. He told me he liked it. So I went in. I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. And I just needed that or get a law degree or a master's in urban design. So I chose to go to law school. In law school, I spoke Spanish. So they recruited me to help Mario Cubans that were having problems at the time. We're talking about late 80s. And they didn't know what to do with the Mario Cubans. So we worked on a release program to get them out of the federal detention centers and get them back into society, because they couldn't deport them back to Cuba. Castro didn't want them back. So I did that in law school. And then, but when I got to law school, I worked for the IRS. I took a job. Sent me to Knoxville from Memphis, and I was a IRS estate tax attorney, and it used my engineering degree a little bit, and didn't like that. I did it for 3 years. I was good at it, but I didn't like it, and went to private practice with somebody, and Spanish people started coming to me, people that spoke Spanish, and I just started learning immigration on my own. There's not really nobody here to help, and bought the books and did it. and been doing it for 30 years, over 30 years. So I enjoy it now, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Charles, we'll stick with you. So focusing on immigration now. So why is immigration an important area of law to you, and how did that play into you choosing it as an area to focus on?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Yeah. The basis is that America is made of immigrants. We're all immigrants. I wish more people would see that. You see discussions about it, why are we letting people come in? Why don't they do it the right way, the legal way? Well, because of the problems with our immigration system, people do it different ways. And that's why we have immigration attorneys. That's why we go to immigration court. That's why we do asylums, or they marry US citizens while they're here, So, I myself am an Army brat. I'm Puerto Rican, and my dad traveled, part of the military, traveled everywhere. So I was used to being around, different countries, different cultures, and speaking Spanish. I didn't speak good Spanish at the beginning. I just had to practice it. Both of my parents are Puerto Rican, but I went to the Department of Defense schools, and it's just growing up with a variety of experiences with different cultures and whatnot. That has helped me. But the basis for all this is that America is based on immigrants, and so we should try to do what we can do to help them. The system is not perfect. Sometimes the system is broken down. And the sad thing is nobody wants to fix the system. It's all political hot potato every 4 years. But nobody really wants to fix the system, and it needs to be fixed. But everybody, a lot of people here want to work, want to become, better persons, help their families and whatnot. So we're here as immigration attorneys to help them do that. And sometimes we can help them, and sometimes we can't. And that's another hard part. A lot of people we can't help because of prior immigration violations. So, but that's the basis.
Sure thing. Yeah. Kate, what about you?
I'd say that I probably have been interested in immigration law for quite a while, even in law school. I went through the process myself when I was younger. I'm from England originally. And I think it was also around that time, if I remember, that I applied for US citizenship. And I thought, there are actually people who help with this and help other immigrants come here. In law school, well, I don't know how law school is today. I know how law school was 20 plus years ago. But, we had sort of your primary tracks, your corporate and litigation. But it didn't tend to get a whole lot more specific than that, a couple classes here and there. And I do remember that I took maybe they had one immigration class, and of course an international law class. So I did take those. But, coming out of, when I eventually got into the legal field and began working at Kramer Racing, like most big firms, I suppose, you're sort of made to do everything. So you don't really get to choose when you first start out. So I basically did whatever the partners told me to do. Then once I could choose, I actually chose employment law in the beginning. We didn't have an immigration law practice here. But I knew that by that point that's what I wanted to pursue, at least a little bit. And so I just started, sort of like Charles was saying, learning it on my own. I would go home at night and read immigration law books. And then eventually we actually hired an immigration lawyer for a time here, and I learned a lot from that person. And then, eventually it just grew from there. We primarily practice business immigration here. That's, I think, by virtue of the type of firm we are. That's sort of where my client contacts already were, from being an employment lawyer, and then, of course, having the other firm clients there who might need that sort of help. But it is having practiced employment law as well. I'm not necessarily saying it's better, but certainly it's much different representing people who, they've worked so hard to be here or trying so hard to be here, and you are helping them achieve that dream rather than, helping a company keep their money. It's one of the great things about immigration law, and also one of the stressful things about immigration law, of course, because you aren't just dealing with someone's money or a company's bottom line. You're dealing with a person's future, their livelihood, and sometimes their safety. And so it's a lot of it's a big burden for an attorney to take on, certainly. And I think immigration lawyers as a whole over the last 4 or 5 years have really felt that as a community. We've had a lot of support services because it's kind of this we take on that emotional burden, and we have it 100 times because we've got 100 clients at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's even more impactful for the foreign national themselves, but we certainly take a lot of that on emotionally as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that you are from England originally, because I was catching an accent on some words, not many, but
it's just my A's. It's
yeah,
just my
yeah.
A's.
I was trying to figure out if you were from
gives
New
me
England.
away.
Yeah, it all made sense to me. Yeah, that's really cool. You're an actual immigrant, though. That makes complete sense. Okay, so Kate, we'll stick with you. So, given student situations in law school right now, what kinds of questions should students be asking themselves now to help better determine whether or not they would like to maybe pursue a career in immigration law?
Well, I guess what I would say is don't decide now, right? I mean, if I had to really be honest,
Nice.
I mean, we get some people, we get some law clerks or new associates who know exactly what they want to do, or seem to know exactly what they want to do. Mm-hmm. But I really feel like it's very difficult to know based on being in law school, because studying law in law school is so much different than actually being a lawyer. And it's obviously a great basis, which is why we have it in the first place. But I'm just not sure that you can really judge. I mean, you can think to yourself, okay, I absolutely hate litigation, or tax bores me to tears. I mean, I personally signed up for tax 2 years in a row and dropped it the first day, 2 years in a row. So we know ourselves in that sense. We know the basics. But I think that one thing I found when I actually got into the legal field and actually started doing these things is that most practice areas involve some of those things. You can be, for example, an immigration attorney and be in court, or you can be an immigration attorney and not be in court. And so, not liking being a litigator, for example, doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't be an immigration attorney, or that, vice versa. I think that one thing that you really need to look at when you're choosing an area of law in general is, do you want to take that emotional responsibility that I was talking about earlier? Because there are certain types of law where you're dealing with humans. Criminal law would be another example that I can think of, where someone's freedom or livelihood is sort of in your hands. That's a lot to deal with, that maybe some people could handle better than others. As far as court, I never go to court because I don't handle that type of immigration work. I know Charles does. I suppose what I would say is, and what I tried to do was try a lot of different things. And law school does give you that opportunity. We've got, of course, summer clerkships, And then I know I did externships during the year because I would much rather have done that than sit in a classroom. So the max we were allowed to do, I did that, but I tried to do very different things. Um, I think law firms are to blame a little bit here, that we expect law clerks to come back, a second summer. And I really wish that we didn't have that kind of pressure on law students to do that, because I think it's better for us ultimately when people come to us after having tried other things. But once, like I said, once you get into it, you do sort of gravitate towards one thing or another, or sometimes you just land in it. And I think you never really know how that's going to happen. And also you can change your mind, because you might see some aspect of the law that you thought that you would really love, and then and you change your mind, and that's okay, because people often start in one area of law and then learn something entirely new halfway through their career. I guess that's an important thing to say too, is that if you have a basis, if you have basic legal knowledge, then it's not too late to change your mind. If you get 5 years in or so, 10 years in, and decide you want to do something else. I've known many attorneys who have been, more than that, more than 10 years in, and have decided to do something entirely different.
Yeah, I've started, I would say I've probably done 30 of these, probably talked to overall probably 30 of attorneys in these discussion groups. And I can't remember one person having a plan laid out in college or in law school and then it panning out exactly how they thought. Not one of them. So I hope that the expectations aren't that. So what about you, Charles? Anything to add?
Same thing. I agree with her in everything she said. Even in private practice, I was trying to use my undergraduate degree, and I was doing construction law, and then I was doing estate planning because I just gotten off out of the IRS doing estate tax. And so at that same time, immigrants were coming to me, little by little, and I started helping them. And as Kate was saying, we do court, we do immigration court. We also do criminal court because the immigrant client cannot just plead guilty or take just a general plea on a lot of criminal charges because they affect their immigration status. And so we practice what it's been called crimmigration, where we need to know the consequences. We explain to the client the consequences, immigration consequences, before they take a plea. Maybe you're going to be unable to apply for a green card later on. Maybe you're going to be in removal proceedings. All these things before they plea. So we have to do some type of criminal law. And I have an attorney in the office that he mainly does the criminal side. And they're mostly our clientele that maybe it's a DUI, maybe it's a domestic assault. There's different levels of problems they may incur in the future regarding immigration. In the beginning, I didn't know I wanted to be an immigration attorney. I did, and I actually clerked for an insurance defense firm in law school. By doing that, I knew I didn't want to be a defense attorney, insurance defense. That's not for me. I want to be helping the plaintiff side, but I got to see it, and I have internships here where the people come in and practice during the summer. Students come in, and the last 2 attorney hires I have, they were both started internships, here. They came in the summer and, hey, one requested to stay longer. I said, sure. And now she's handling immigration court, and stuff like that. But get be sort of aggressive, try different things, go to different law firms and check it out. You may not like immigration. It may not be for you. But I got lucky that the 2 attorneys that came in for internships while they were in law school stayed. And they're both practicing attorneys in my office. And one's from LMU and one's from UT. You just gotta love it. Your heart has to be in it. And this is one one area of practice where your heart has to be in it to help people. And so just do what you can and do different things. Go, you may think you want to do immigration, but then you didn't go try something else. Go try things. Go clerk different places. Nobody, like Kate's saying, we don't require people to stay here. And maybe sometimes we don't want somebody to stay here after clerking during the summer, but go try different things, and that'll open up your eyes to all the different practices of law. I've done a tax trial, I've done construction law trials, all this before immigration. I've tried everything, but immigration is what stuck. And I love it. It's stressful, and just talk to attorneys. Go, I would recommend some go clerk in Memphis where the immigration court's at, where there's more immigration attorneys, or Atlanta. Go to where people know, know the law. That's all I got to say on that. But I agree with what Kate's saying. Just try a lot of different things. Yeah.
Good advice for sure. Okay, so Charles, we'll stick with you. So kind of speaking toward, I think we have a good juxtaposition of experience here with you running your own firm and Kate working for one of the larger firms in town. So I'm hoping they have some good experience and some answers here. But anyways, so Charles, so what does your day-to-day work life at work look like? And how does that area of law or immigration compare and contrast to other areas?
Oh man, it's just crazy. We'll get about 15 to 20 appointments a day, and it's kind of funny because we just bought a building, and it seems like buying a building opens up more people coming in because we don't have anybody, our neighbors, we're just by ourselves. So it's like, I don't know, it's just been amazing the amount of people, just because we have a new building, it's just starting to come in more and more. We were already busy before then, but consultations, and you're hearing people's problems every day. You sit with them, you sit with other attorneys, they talk about, can we help them on the immigration process? I believe 50 to 60% we cannot help due to prior immigration violations. So that's the problem. We can't help everybody, but we have to sit and try and do the best we can with our experience and our knowledge and our research. How can we help them? Going from family petitions all the way up to asylums, you got DACA, TPS, family petitions, asylum petitions, O1s, P1s. I mean, we could just keep on, and you get people of different, from different countries, numerous countries come in. Obviously, 90% of my staff speak Spanish, so we get a lot of Spanish people, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, European countries, but we get a lot of Russians. One day we had a Russian and a Ukrainian at the same time, and I had to ask the question, about the war, and it was interesting. I can't tell you their answers, but it was very interesting. You get people and they have their stories, so you hear from all these stories all around the world. And the negative side is you hear bad stories of what happened to them in their country, just horrible things. I don't even want bad crimes. And that's why they're fleeing, Younger attorneys have to deal with that more than I do. I've had experience listening. It's a lot of listening, but you hear the atrocities that are committed in some of these countries. So you have to deal with that and leave it at work and go home. And then the next day you hear it again, you hear something else. But yeah, that's about my day. Just, we have the staff that prepares the packages. As the attorneys, we see if they have cases, and then we refer the cases to our staff to prepare the forms and whatnot. And then when we got court, we have immigration court, we prepare them for court, we file all the paperwork with the court, and that's all another issue, dealing with the immigration court system. They're now having WebEx hearings, so we can have the hearings in our office. It makes it a lot better for our clientele and us. And then that's about every day, just constant. And they get approved, they come in, we take photos of them, they're happy, we've helped them, we just had an asylum approved the other day. Very excited, very happy, but we can't help everybody. We can't get everybody approved. And that's the being realistic. You have to be a realist in doing this job. You want to help everybody, but you can't really help everybody. You can advise them as to the future, what can they do in the future or expect, but we can never guess what the politicians are going to do regarding passing anything new, and a lot of people hear things off TV and off the street, and it's all wrong, it never happened. So we gotta direct that, tell them, that's not gonna happen. Or we're dealing with this constantly, non-attorneys trying to do paperwork, and it's a big problem for us and messing up their case. If you mess up somebody's case, they could be put in removal proceedings. In other words, they could be deported because somebody took their money and did something wrong, sent them to an interview in Memphis, and they get put in proceedings because they should have never filed it in the first place. Same thing with attorneys that don't do immigration. And they dabble in it. You cannot dabble in immigration. We get so many things done by other attorneys that don't do immigration. You cannot, it's not an area to dabble because the person will be put in proceedings based on a mistake you made. Shouldn't have done it in the first place. That's a constant problem we're having too. So non-attorneys and attorneys that shouldn't be doing immigration because they weren't trained, they didn't, I don't know, but that's part of the problems we're having consistently right now. And that is the downside. So one advice to the law students, if you're going to get in it, learn it properly, get trained properly. So you're confident in giving your answers and you don't put their lives in jeopardy. They could be removed, put in deportation proceedings, ICE can come get them, stuff like that. Just, you have to know what you're doing. And every day in and out, we have to be aware of what we're saying and what we're filing for them. And I tell the young attorneys, we can't help them, but don't give them false hopes. Mm-hmm. We can't sign contracts if they don't really have cases. It's not something that you can roll a dice and see if it works. No, you got to be sure the law is the law, and if they don't have it, you can't do it. So that's my day. It's stressful, but I try to, now that I'm 59, I try to take it easy, but there's no easy in immigration. There's no taking it easy, but I love it. You got to love it to be in it. And I'll just keep on. And my job as an older attorney is to train these young attorneys so that they can go in the community later on and be good immigration attorneys or good attorneys overall. Because I don't really want to see somebody doing something bad to an immigrant because they weren't properly trained. We've seen enough of that.
Sure. Kate, you want me to repeat the question?
No, I think I think I got it. Yeah, I mean, my day to day has obviously changed a lot over 20 years. Once you get older and you sort of get to hand things down to the younger people, which is nice. But yes, I mean, definitely I agree with Charles that a lot of my day and I feel my responsibility is to train the attorneys who and the staff who do this work, because it is I think one of the best words to use is unforgiving of any kind of mistakes. And you asked the question about to sort of contrast it with the other areas of law. And I find that when I transitioned, that was one of the biggest challenges of immigration law. And I suppose part of it comes from your opposing counsel is not a counsel at all, but the government, and not even a person, but an agency with very inflexible rules. There are no extensions. You know, I remember being in employment law, and yes, you could get an extension for this or an extension for this, because you're dealing with another attorney or even the court at times, and you were able to get those, and those don't happen in immigration. Your deadlines are generally created by the foreign national's situation, you know, and so another challenge to immigration is you've got a million factors in your head to try to keep in mind for each case. You know, lots of different ways to go wrong. And so I think that's one of the differences as well. Like Charles said, a lot more human contact, people, individuals, as opposed to company facts and meeting company representatives or interviewing witnesses and those kinds of things. So a lot of sob stories, and I don't say that condescendingly. I mean, there are a lot of real sob stories out there, and you can allow yourself to get very caught up in it. And it is very difficult to say no to someone or to tell someone that you can't help them. But like Charles said, a lot of times you can't. You know, another difference that I feel makes immigration challenging is what I sort of call law by memo. So other types of law, you have a written law, and when someone decides to change the rules on you, they will actually publish a new law and tell you clearly what that law is. Immigration, we have a very old law that has not changed much, but immigration changes night and day all the time. And it does so by sometimes obscure memo that you never even saw, you know, until you somehow stumble upon it. And so, because immigration is more about how an officer is adjudicating your petition than it is about, you know, well, what does the actual law say? And so the practice of the immigration officers can change just by a directive. And you can imagine that the person or people who are in charge give different directives. And so that is something that's very difficult to keep up with. I think that different from other types of law, we tend to be somewhat held hostage by the political climate of the times. And I think Charles referred to this earlier, you know, every time we have a change in administration, we've got to worry about what that's going to mean, for our clients. And even if you've been living under a rock for the last 7 years, you probably know that immigration has taken quite a beating over the last few years. And it has gone back and forth, and it's been a real roller coaster ride trying to keep up with all the changes, particularly kind of tying back in those deadlines in order to meet all those deadlines, because sometimes the changes impact the timeline of a case, and you know, could then be too late for your client before you can fix things. So I think that's one of the biggest differences, I guess, between when I was practicing employment law and when I started with immigration. I will say one of the great things that was different is, I guess, the community of immigration lawyers. And I think that all the turmoil that we've all gone through over the past 7 years has really brought us all as a community closer together. You know, we've always had sort of these national listservs of immigration attorneys where we ask each other questions, but really over the last several years, those have just been flooded with practitioners helping other practitioners. And so you always know that you can put a question out on the listserv and someone's going to answer you. And it's just been a lot of, you know, there's a lot more support, I feel like, in our little immigration attorney world than I ever experienced in any other type of practice. And like I said, I think it's because we're all having a hard time. Even those of us who had been practicing for 10, 15 years, we felt like we were new practitioners over those last few years when things were changing so constantly. And there's still things that happen, and I think I have no idea what I'm doing. And so that can happen even after 20 years of practice. It probably will happen up until the day that I decide not to do this anymore.
Yeah, that's another thing that all the attorneys I've spoken to have kind of shared the same sentiments, that there was always points in their career where they had no idea what they were doing, and something that students need to just don't worry about it, just get through it, and you'll eventually figure it out. But okay, so kind of sticking with you both mentioned, obviously, there's obviously incredibly dark circumstances around a lot of the situations and the clients that you get. I've spoken to obviously criminal defense attorneys or prosecutors or family law attorneys, and they all kind of share the same sentiments that a lot of your clients are going through quite literally the worst situation that they'll ever happen to them in their lives. So Kate, we'll stick with you. So given that, what advice would you have for students who worry about these kind of darker circumstances and hearing about all these stories, and what kinds of things can they start to do now to kind of better prepare themselves for that in the future?
Well, I think there are always going to be dark days. I mean, being an attorney is hard. It's a lot of work, and it's hard, it's taxing. You don't get to put it away when you walk out of the office. And so that's, you definitely have to have the kind of personality who can deal with that. To the extent that you have the ability to compartmentalize, that is a very strong attribute to have as an attorney, but particularly as an immigration attorney. Otherwise, you would worry nonstop about every client that you had, and you would worry forever about the clients that you couldn't help. You've got to have the kind of personality who can just kind of put that aside. But, despite those dark days, I mean, you also have those days when you finally get permanent residency for someone, especially those who've been waiting for so long, the people who are subject to the backlogs, and to see what that means to them, and that you have helped them do that, helped their family in that way. It's one of the most fulfilling things that you can imagine. And so, it's like anything. Things that are really bad are usually the ones that also bring, things that are really good. And you have to take both if that's what you want. I mean, you can sort of have a more middle of the road, less emotional area of practice if you want to. And so you probably wouldn't experience some of those kinds of lows, but then you also wouldn't experience those highs either. So to me, it's worth it. But like Charles said, it is definitely one of those practices that it has to mean a lot to you, because otherwise you are just going to burn out. And all of us have, wouldn't say come close to it, but all of us have had those times where you think, I can't listen to another story from someone. I'm sorry, it's sad. I just can't feel anymore for you. And I can't take another consultation. And I've had those. I've sent an email to my staff before saying, I am not having any more consultations. Do not schedule one more thing for me for another 2 weeks. I have to take a mental checkout from consultations. I mean, you're going to have that, but to me, it's well worth it. But you definitely have to. I mean, as an attorney in general, you have to toughen up, right? I mean, we've all seasoned attorneys have stood in front of a judge who's tried to, dress us down a little bit or a lot. And so we've all had attorneys on who are opposing counsel try to be condescending and intimidating to us. I mean, that's just all part of being an attorney. I don't know, again, I don't know what law school is like these days, but when I went to law school, it was kind of terrifying, to have to stand up and answer questions out loud, and professors yelling at you and ridiculing you. They've probably gotten nicer over the years, but that certainly does prepare you for exactly what judges and older attorneys do to you.
Mhm.
Some of them, I mean, obviously everyone at Kramer Racing is lovely, but we really do have to have some thick skin to be in this business, I think, no matter what kind of law you practice.
Yeah. Charles, what about you?
You said it, you have to have a thick skin, to be in this practice. I think this happens to attorneys in all these areas of the law, not just immigration. You have to have a thick skin. I try to leave everything at work. I try not to take it home. We send a lot of people out of the country for interviews, and doing our best, we make sure that they're coming back after going to their interviews. So it may be during Christmas time, or you're at home and somebody's out there waiting to get approved, after an interview, and you're checking on their online to see if they're approved, and you keep on checking. 23rd, are they coming back for Christmas? Are they coming back to be with their spouse and kids? You check on the 24th, you go, oh no, they're not going to be with their kids, and stuff like that. But it happens every year. And then when they get approved the 27th, you go, hallelujah, but you try to leave a lot of the stuff at work. But we do, send a lot of people home for the interviews, be it Mexico, be it Honduras, Guatemala. You make sure you did the right thing, make sure there's no secrets, so that you feel confident that they're going to get approved when they step out for the interviews. But I try to leave the stress at work, exercise, you have work time and you have your mental health time, go home, always try to stay in shape, it'll help your profession, it'll help your mental capacity, and have sort of a thick skin, because you're going to hear, bad stories all the time. You're going to hear good stories too. The good stories are easy to take. People get approved for green cards at an interview, or citizenship or whatnot, or asylum. And it's all good, but then the next day you're back, hearing other things, and so you have to basically balance your mental capacity to, you can take both sides, but at the same time, I try to leave it at work. But at 3 a.m, your head's spinning, you can't help that. All the thoughts are in there. I just try to take care of myself. It's hard because the stress eats you up at work, but what are you going to do? You are who you were brought up to be, you can do what you can to change yourself, but at the same time, you just you're helping other people, but you also have to help yourself. And so, like me, I delegate a lot now. I delegate to the younger attorneys so they can take more of the stress when they have questions. Obviously, the questions come back to me from them, and they're pretty complicated. And so that gets the stress going again. But sometimes I'll do what Kate does. I don't need any more appointments. I'm just overwhelmed. You guys stop it. Just stop. Just answer the questions, do what you need to do, and just leave me alone sometimes. But I try to delegate. As an older attorney, I delegate a lot of it out, so I don't have to be the one feeling all the stress. I have that luxury now. But even delegating things out is still very stressful, because if there are problems, I'm the one that has to handle the problems, or the complicated cases. But and she's right, Kate is correct. We bounce things off listservs and stuff like that. I've been doing this 30 years. I still bounce things off. complicated questions keep on coming in every day. And so I would use other attorneys. I've got to know attorneys all through the year. Luckily, I went to school in Memphis, so I know a lot of the Memphis attorneys that went to school with me, and that's where the immigration court. So, you know, they would have more experience. And when I was younger, I drove everywhere. I drove to the court all the time in Memphis. I drove to Atlanta. I drove to Kentucky. I had offices everywhere, you know, but at some point you need to just bring everything in and settle down and protect your health and your back, you know. Yeah, you just have to, what's the word? I can't be in every county. There's a need for immigration attorneys in different counties, you know, and I can't be in every county. So you have to decide, you know, hey, we'll do the best we can here in Knox County, and hopefully the clientele will come to us. And that way, my sanity, I don't have to be driving all the time, you know, but sanity and your health, you know, just you got to protect your health, because the highs and lows come every other day. And you just have to, I have to be a little bit stoic sometimes and let the younger attorneys get more excited now for the good, you know, that comes in here. But because I know there's always clients with hardships. It's always going to happen. It's going to come in the future with Ukrainians, you know, the war and everything, maybe Russians seeking asylum from their country, who knows, you know. But yeah, it's always, the Ukrainians now have TPS, you know, anytime there's something around the world happening and people can't return to their countries, they'll issue TPS for them, temporary protected status. And then we'll have to deal with them. Venezuelans, another country, we deal with a lot of asylums and their TPS and stuff. So we're always dealing with new current events around the world. And, you know, I try to now in my older age be stoic and just try to help them as best we can. But exercising and trying to eat right helps a lot, but keeping it at work also helps a lot. Don't bring it home.
Yeah, great advice for sure. Okay, so we've got time for a couple more here. So let's change the pace a little bit. So, Kate, we'll go back to you for this one first. So students are always encouraged to seek out mentoring relationships. What kinds of things were you looking for in your current mentors, and what steps did you take while in law school to help foster and build those relationships?
When I was in law school, okay. So what I'm looking for in a mentor, not what I'm looking for in a mentee, right?
Right. Yeah. So like, put yourself when you were young and kind of the development of your mentors, how that came about, and what you were looking for, and all that good stuff. Okay.
All right. Well, I suppose, you know, just to remind everyone that I sort of checked out in law school at some point. But yeah, but I think before that, like I said, I really sought different types of externships, and then in things that I thought I was interested in, but then made sure to keep in contact with those people, you know, throughout the year. I guess I sort of had a mentor who was just a lawyer I knew. And so he was an important resource for me. Wasn't necessarily in the area that I was in, but certainly I could bounce things off of him. And I have always had more of a problem with procedural stuff than the actual, you know, being panicked about not knowing something in the law, as not knowing what I'm supposed to do, where am I supposed to sit, what am I supposed to say, who talks first, who does this. And so, you know, he would always help me with those types of things. And so I was less panicked and could actually think about the law, because, you know, when you're panicked about the procedural stuff, you can't deal with anything else. But yeah, I guess I probably didn't, may not be the best person to answer this question, because I really didn't seek out other than those people who sort of presented themselves to me by virtue of having an externship or having the summer clerkship.
Let me rephrase it. What advice would you have for students that now to just go to seek out mentorships and help start building those in present time instead of later on in their careers?
Well, I actually had someone seek me out as a mentor last year, and I think one thing is attorneys want to help new attorneys. They want to help. We really do, because we want people. We want more warm bodies to do the work. So, and we especially, when we really love our practice, like, Charles and I have really talked a lot about the stress of immigration law. But we both love practicing immigration law. I love practicing immigration law. It's so difficult, and I love to share it too. And I think hopefully a lot of attorneys feel that way. And so, definitely asking questions. One thing that I was impressed with this particular person was, well, first of all, she didn't try to take up a lot of my time. We're so busy, and it's not that we, don't want to help. Again, we do, but we're constantly doing something else. So, she didn't try to take up a lot of my time, but she asked if she could, instead of me just having a meeting with her, if she could sit in on something that I was doing anyway. And she did that 2 or 3 times throughout the year. And I didn't mind for her to do that. And plus, it wasn't taking up a lot of my time. And then we would sort of talk about it afterwards, and she would ask me questions. I think that one thing I find, and I think that a lot of attorneys would agree with me here. One thing that we notice about younger attorneys is when they don't ask questions, because that makes us very nervous, because there are always 100 questions. A situation is almost always confusing. And we know we probably haven't explained it in the best way. So when a law clerk, for example, or a new associate kind of says, "Oh, okay," and then just goes away, when we say, "Do you have any questions?" And they say no, then we all get very nervous that it's not going to be done the way we want it to be done. So I think, asking questions, but having done a little bit of, background beforehand, so that you're asking the questions about something that person actually does. If somebody came to me and started asking questions about immigration court and that type of thing, I would lose interest quite quickly, because it's just not something that I do. But yeah, like I said, we want people to follow in our footsteps. We want people to be interested, and especially in Knoxville, where we are low on immigration attorneys. Now there are a lot more immigration attorneys now than when I first started, but we need more. I mean, there are lots of people who need help, and so I'm thrilled when someone reaches out to me and wants to know more about the practice.
If I may just shamelessly plug a couple of things the KBA does along these lines. We have law students can also use this tool as well. We have the Mentor for the Moment program. You can go just search areas of practice. Any attorney that's a member of ours that has decided to be part of that will show up under those areas of practice, and then they'll have their phone number, emails, you can give them a call. We also have our the diversity event we do every October through the diversity committee. We purposefully match up students with it may be one attorney for maybe a few students, but we try to purposefully match up students with a mentor, so we help build relationships that way. So sorry, I just wanted to shamelessly plug those couple of resources if students want some practical ways to get involved there. So Charles, what about you? Anything to kind of follow up on your seeking of mentors here?
By the way, I used to be chairman of those diversity committee a
There you go.
long time ago, but
Yeah.
it shows you how long I've been part of the bar. But yes, that committee is great. Students need to join, join as many student organizations as you can, especially the ones offered by the KBA. KBA offers a lot. Go talk to immigration attorneys. I'm sure I would never mind for somebody to come in and ask me questions on immigration. We would actually, a law student would come in, sit down and talk to me. I'd bring all the associates in just to ask them questions, So why are you're interested in immigration? Why are you come here? What excites you about immigration? Why are you here? We want to know, and then we can answer their questions also. And one thing with law students, if you're working with somebody, do your best job, do the best you can. If you're working a clerkship or whatnot on immigration, there's a lot of issues to be resolved. There's the halfway of doing things, and then there's the full professional law student that has a lot of energy, that wants to do it way of doing things. So that's one of my advice I give to them. You're in there, you made it in there, do your best, work hard. That'll get you somewhere. Work hard, and then ask questions. One of my mentors was a professor at Memphis Law School, my immigration professor. He was great. And so he was sort of a mentor. And you know who was also a mentor? When I started practicing, I don't know, Jonathan, if you remember Terry Woods. You remember her? I practiced with her at the beginning. She was in charge of the pro bono committee, the pro bono part of legal aid, I believe. But she's retired. But she didn't do immigration. But the way she acted with clients and everything, I learned a lot from her. How to treat clients and how to care for them. She was great. So you just never know where your mentor is coming from. But as Kate said, yeah, just talk and ask questions. And that's the best thing. Don't be shy about it. As an attorney, you can't be shy,
Yeah, that's
the part out of being an attorney,
Yeah, I think that was pretty much the advice that I've heard from every attorney I've spoken to so far. Just take the risks. It'll pay off, or what you perceive as the risk, right? Yeah. But all right, well, y'all, that was it. That hour flew by. Really appreciate you both being here with us. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, so we're going to put this up on YouTube. The students will be able to use it as a reference if they want to come fall back and learn a little bit about immigration law moving forward. So we both, I know you're both very busy and your time is very valuable. So we greatly appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Enjoyed it.
Thanks.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.